Hello again everyone, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about zodiac signs and sexuality. I'm going to start off with the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, and go all the way till Pisces. I'm going to go in the order of the zodiac signs, of course. And let me start out with Aries. Now, Aries is ruled by Mars, as most of you know, and Aries is a sign that can obviously have a prodigious and strong sex drive, very passionate. They believe in being extemporaneous, often as far as sex goes, very spontaneous. Patience is not a virtue often with Aries, and they when it comes to sex, and like most things in their lives, they like things really, they want it to start very quickly, and can become impatient with a sexual partner. Now, the next sign, Taurus. Now, Taurus, despite on the surface, when in public, Taurus is not the type to really display great affection or anything sexual out in public, but behind closed doors, they could be very demonstrative and sensual and have a very intense sexual urge. I believe one of the strongest of the zodiac, which I would think Scorpio would be maybe first, and then Taurus second in that department. Taurus, perhaps more than any other sign, enjoys it for the strong physical sensation that it gives them, and the love that is associated with it, since Venus does rule Taurus. Now, the next sign, Gemini. This is something obviously Gemini a lot different than the Taurus. Than as far as sex goes. This is a big disparity in these signs this way. Now, Gemini, the temperament is very intellectual and mental. Gemini in a sexual relationship will strongly often emphasize mental stimulation as well as having physical stimulation. However, I don't see Gemini as a sign that has a very strong sex urge. They're more about mental than as far as the compatibility goes, say, with the sexual partner, and the sex urge. I'm not saying they don't. I mean, Gemini can have a sex urge, don't get me wrong, but I see it as below average as far as the zodiac signs go, though. And they like variety. Variety is the spice of life for Geminis, and I believe this would apply as far as sexually, as well as they can disdain monotony. Now, as far as that goes, I'm just saying, I'm not talking about, don't misconstrue what I'm saying about Gemini. I'm not talking about multiple partners. What I'm referring to is variety in the one sexual relationship with the one partner. So anyway, the next sign, Cancer. Now, Cancer, I would see at least having an average libido, if not above average. Cancer is strongly connected with being loving, sentimental, amorous, and they, I believe when a Cancer is in love with somebody, they're about full throttle as far as sex goes, and this is a sign where love and sex really merge strongly, I believe, with this particular sign. I think I've mentioned this at least in one other video before then. I think Cancer, an argument can be made that on average they love more than perhaps any other sign. They're the most, they could be about the most sensitive, or one of the more sensitive signs, and obviously they could have at least, I would say, between average and maybe a little above average, at least as far as the sexual urge goes with Cancer. Now, the next sign, Leo. Now, Leos can be very ardent, passionate, and the sign is known to be generous and magnanimous, and I think this can apply to sexually as well. They could have a strong sex drive. The sign can be, Leos can be domineering. They may be the ones that are kind of like the person in the sexual relationship that kind of maybe controls a lot of the action in terms of when to have it, and so on and so forth. So, but I see them as having an above average libido. Now, the next sign, Virgo. Now Virgo, like Gemini, has a mental, their disposition and temperament is strongly connected with things of a mental nature. I see Virgo as a sign that likes the partners to be intellectual, analytical. However, Virgos can appear, and they are, but a lot of them, but in public they're can be more scrupulous, more proper than the average person. They can be very meticulous dressers. They're, being an earth sign, I see Virgo as a sign that is more demonstrative in private, like Taurus and like Capricorn, and a sign that has a little bit more of a sexual urge than what is noticed superficially by others. Now, the next sign, Libra, and Libra being an air sign and ruled by Venus, I would put the Libra between average, or about, I would say about moderate to average overall, on average as far as the sexual urge goes, because it is an air sign, but it's ruled by Venus, and they seek, and I see them as being balanced this way, and having Libras want intellectual compatibility in a relationship, I believe, but also at the same time being ruled by love. They want to have the fair amount of romance and sex as well, so there is a balance. They strive for equilibrium, so that's why I see Libra as about, I would say about average, on average for Libras. Now, the next sign, Scorpio. Now, Scorpio can very well unequivocally be the most sexual sign of the zodiac, and the most erotic, and have the strongest sex urge. Now, everyone has the erogenous zone, but with Scorpio it may be even more emphasized. And as most of you know, it's the private sector that governs the Scorpio as far as the anatomical part that corresponds with the sun, so you can understand where this could. I really believe this is the most sexual of the zodiac signs. The next sign, Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is a sign that is effervescent, exuberant, and expansive in nature, and I believe this energy is often applied sexually with them. So I see Sagittarius being passionate, having a strong sex urge and libido, and I believe they approach these matters obviously with a lot of vigor, a lot of enthusiasm, and they're very, I would say, as far as the, Sagittarius being upbeat, this is how they are, I would say, often as far as sexual relationships would go as well. Now, the next sign, Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is noticed by many to be undemonstrative, and maybe to some degree they can be, but being an earth sign, this is a sign that can be surprisingly more sensual, more erotic than what is shown out in public. Capricorn can appear very, or I should say really are very businesslike, have a very stern and serious disposition. However, they could be more amorous and more, as far as as far as being sexual, a lot more in private than what is shown out in public. So reality is Capricorns can be really at least at average as far as the sex drive goes, I believe. Now, the next sign, Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is similar to like Gemini because their disposition is very intellectual. Aquarius likes to be kind of like that universal friend to others, and I believe when they see a sexual partner or have one, they look at this person often as their best friend, along with being the sexual partner. Now, I think they look for, they could be attracted to perhaps the uniqueness of the partner, the mind of the partner. There's something that is innovative about this person. But I see Aquarius on average, and this is just my opinion, of course, but being as far as the sex urge goes, I would say at least maybe a little below average anyway. Now, last but not least, Pisces. Now, the sign of Pisces may be sensation seeking, and this is a sign that has really seeks the strong physical gratification of the similar, I would say, to Taurus. Now, and also Pisces is a sign that is idealistic, so they obviously, I think many Pisceans want to really enjoy that ultimate experience with their sexual partner. The idealism, I believe, comes out in their sexual relations with the partner. So anyway, I just wanted to say, and I should have said this at the beginning of the video, and I'm sorry I didn't, that obviously this applies to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, these descriptions I just gave you. And obviously you can look at your Mars position, Sun on the 8th house cusp. Look at Mars. Obviously, if somebody has a strong, let's say if somebody with Virgo rising has Mars conjunct the Ascendant or Sun sign, or Mars in the 8th, obviously this person might have a little bit more emphasis on the sexual nature than otherwise indicated. Or even if, or if Gemini rise, someone had Gemini rising, for example, they can have, and if they had Mars in the 8th house, or Mars conjunct the Ascendant, Mars conjunct the Sun sign, this could be some, or Mars, say, in Scorpio, or Aries, this could be somebody with a little stronger as far as the sexual urge or nature goes than are otherwise indicated. So I would look at these placements as well. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the zodiac signs and sexuality. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be continuing my Chiron aspects segments. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because a person, astrologically, is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.